If you can see my screen here, what I'll show you here for the next 30 minutes or so is kind of a brief run through of our new product that we've released for real estate investing, development, and property information. And I'd ask to just keep any questions you might have to the end or drop them right down here in the chat box. And then I will circle back and answer all those at the conclusion of the walkthrough here. So I can just kind of dive in here and get started with a little bit of background on the company and who we are. So Create is a 3-year-old company based in Washington, D.C., and we were founded by a handful of people who had different experience in the real estate industry, as well as a handful of really talented software engineers. So my background is in real estate development and investing, and we have some colleagues here who come from the architecture and brokerage world, as well as city planning, etc. So what we did is we spent the last few years building this platform really as a response to realization that there wasn't really a consistent and accurate and really consolidated source by which to get any different kind of building and property information on the internet. And so what we did is we assembled all this stuff using some of the latest mapping tools and technologies and put it all here on an easy-to-use format that allows anyone to get information on anything from a single-family home to a condo building to an office, etc. And so what you see here on our big colorful map is a representation of downtown Washington, D.C., and all the buildings are color-coded by what they're currently being used for. So green is residential, orange will be retail, blue will be office and some industrial, and they're shaded the darker the building by the density of the particular use. So if there is a single-family home, that'll show up lighter than a larger apartment building, etc. And so whenever you're looking to find information about any property around the city, all you have to do is basically either type in an address up here at the top search bar or select it anywhere on the map. And so by double-clicking, this will bring me into a perspective view with a beautiful 3D model here of what the structure actually looks like. And we get a lot of questions about what this chart up here on the upper left means. And really what this is meant to do is not to provide necessarily a score, but really to show you at a glance what some of the strengths and weaknesses of a particular property would be. And this is taking into account trends in the area as far as price movements based on tax assessed values, build quality from the local assessor's office, which is the information that's used to write your tax bills, demographic information on how incomes in this area compare to other areas around the city, the ability to expand the property and to add additional building area, and then bringing together the build quality and expansion potential, the opportunity to really come in and add value. And so the way our system works is we are not creating any of this content ourselves, but rather we're aggregating all this different information from sources that people are generally already going to anyway. And we're continuing to work in more pieces of data and to solicit insight from our users and customers, from people that really are looking for particular things they wouldn't otherwise be able to find in an easy-to-use way. But really at a high level, for any property here, we can show you instantly what the property is used for, where it's located, who owns that property, and what the underlying zoning conditions would be. And as you go through here, the interface is set up so that you can find anything you need to really in a matter of 2 to 3 clicks, no matter what it is you're looking for. So for things like the actual information on the structure itself, you can click on this location and building tab, and this will pull up a menu telling you about what the building is from a structural perspective, how big it is, when it was built, when it was last remodeled, and what the recent history of tax assessments are for that property. You can also find structural information on what the building is physically built out of. So in this case, it's an excellent grade property built out of brick with 10-foot floor-to-floor heights. So you can see what the height of the stories and the ceilings are on a particular structure. And then also a complete history of all of the building permits that have been issued on this property. So if you're trying to make an assessment as far as what kind of capital investment might need to go into the property to bring it up to par with the rest of the market, I can show you here that an elevator was installed on this particular property back in 2011. So that's something, a cost that you wouldn't otherwise need to bear yourself. But from our experience, we took a look at a lot of market reports and investment prospectuses from a lot of different kinds of properties around major metro markets around the United States. And we noticed a theme, and we tried to bring all that stuff together here and make it dynamic so that all you need to know in order to assemble all this data is just an address or a location on a map. So the kinds of things that we're helping to inform here for someone who might be building condos or opening a retail store would be who your buyer and who the market is for shopping in that store or to purchase one of the units. So this is statistics that are based here at the census tract level on population and household size, basic gender and age demographic mix, as well as income levels and occupation trends, so that you can see what people are doing in this area, what do they do for a living, how do they commute to work. And we also have information here on housing stock, so you can see in a particular area if units are typically owner or renter occupied, what the cost to buy or to rent in that area is, and then how well connected to public transit that is. So we're using some scores which are coming to us from a third-party provider called WalkScore, which has an algorithm that basically determines, based on the distance to other amenities and public transit, and things such as bike lanes, just how walkable, accessible to public transit, or biker friendly that particular area might be. And we can show you things like where metro stations are, if there are bus lines nearby, and where there might be even things in urban markets where you've got the opportunity to car share or do a bike share. And we're trying to, really uncover a lot of the logic behind why different sizes of parking facilities are provided, and allowing you to see instantly what the commuting patterns are for people around the area. And this is data that's continuing to get updated on an ongoing basis. So what we do is we actually tap into live data feeds from about a half dozen different DC government agencies in this case. And that is everything from the outlines of the different lots to the heights and the perimeters of the buildings, and then all of the transit and other municipality maintained data. So this comes in on an ongoing basis, and as soon as it's updated on that primary source, so if you were going to go to a government records portal or any of the half dozen of them that exist, you're going to find the exact same current recency of data and quality of data that you would find in any of those sources. But we knew that that wasn't going to be enough in order to really inform a real estate investment or development decision. So if you wanted to say, buy this property right here, and you can see that when I click on a property, it activates a higher resolution 3D model of that building that shows you what some of the volumes of the building are, as well as the roof detail, and can help you do things like inform architectural or zoning studies and those kinds of things. If you were looking to augment an existing structure, we do have all of the city planning and the zoning constraints in here as well, so that with just a click, you can instantly see what the property is used for, if that's in conformance with the way that the law is written currently, and then if it's subject to any different kinds of zoning overlays or historic restrictions or things like that. If you're looking to drill down and find even more information out about what structures on that site are permitted to be, we do have all the underlying zoning information here as well, so that in this case I can see that this is an SP1 zone, and I can build all different kinds of moderate density structures for residential, office, and other professional uses. And this is helping to, if you're an analyst at a development company or a broker or an architect, to give you high-level information on what's permitted and then how large those structures can be, so that you can make a better assessment as far as what kind of density is achievable for different uses on a particular site. So if you're in the industry, you might know what the term FAR means, which is floor area ratio, basically giving you an idea as far as how many square feet of building area can I get for every square foot of land area. And there's also several constraints that govern how much of a lot that the building can occupy. So we have that information in here as well as the height and the setback requirements that dictate how high the building can be at a maximum, and then how far back from certain streets a structure on that site has to be. There are also a variety of different parking restrictions that go with different zoning and different use types. So I can see that for a single family dwelling, I only have to provide one parking space here, where if I wanted to build an apartment building, typically not everyone in a building will have a car. And so the local law dictates that I only have to provide one parking space for each 4 apartments. And so that's all well and good, and it helps to inform, as it pertains to this specific site. what some of the overarching restrictions and conditions would be if you're looking to invest or develop that property. But then we've also tried to work with a lot of other commercial data sources in order to help inform what the market activity is like in a given area. And so these are data points that we are currently pulling from a variety of different brokerage research shops. So they govern all different kinds of land use in a particular city. So this could be residential or apartments, office buildings, retail stores, you name it. And what we're doing here is we're showing you both at the city level, and then if you wanted to go in and take a look at the sub-market level, so in this particular area, I can see that there are 101 Class A or premium level office buildings that encompass 23 million square feet of space. And in this market, it's a pretty strong market, so that the vacancy rate is about 11%, which might be lower or higher than other areas of the city. And this is trying to show you some overarching market conditions that you'll be faced with if you're looking to make an investment in the market. We are working with several data providers currently to help reinforce this and to get it in on a more timely and granular basis, so that you'll soon be able to see what some of the lease details are for tenants in this building, as well as how many employees they have, how much space they take up in a particular structure, and then even things like how much revenue they generate and what kind of credit that business might have. So when you're looking at the different kinds of market conditions throughout the city, it also helps to take a look and see the broader economy and see, all right, well, how is the DC region doing, maybe in context or comparison to other markets throughout the country? And so data points like these are coming directly from federal government sources like the Federal Reserve. And the frequency of the data updates really depends on the source and what kind of data it is. So here in Washington, for instance, building permits are updated on a daily basis, whereas higher level economic data really comes in either on a monthly, quarterly, or annual basis. And we're trying to make it as transparent as possible to see exactly where this stuff is coming from, so that you can have something you can rely on and lean on and know that it's coming from a credible source. This extends also into investment conditions as well. So things like understanding what mortgage rates are in order to purchase and finance a property could be relevant to you, or it could be if you're looking to do something like acquire this particular office building to get an idea as far as what you might expect in the debt and equity markets in order to finance it and then bring other investors into the transaction. This is all based on capital markets groups doing a lot of research to this effect and showing you what the risk premium is for all these different kinds of properties. And we're using that and benchmarking it against a variety of different treasury rates and things like that that are used to determine what the overall interest rate is in the broader economy. So whether it's a risk-free rate on a government bond or any other of the variety of kinds of underlying securities that determine what kind of financing is achievable for different property types, we're trying to bring all that stuff together here and make it as easy to understand as possible and make it relevant to not just the specific market, but even the specific property. That goes into some of the other data points that we provide as well, and some of the experience that I've had in the past working with different local governments and economic incentive programs. So this includes all different kinds of things like what kind of grants or tax credits you might be eligible for if you're going to make an investment in property here, and then to potentially help fill out a stack of capital that you would need in order to acquire and then reposition or redevelop the property. So that's at a high level all of the data points that are currently in the system. And like I said, that list is expanding on an ongoing basis. So I'd encourage you to continue coming back to the site and checking on what it is that we're looking to do here on a weekly basis. But some of the other features that we wanted to bring people together on so that they could understand how best to use the system are the map-based tools that we've got that will allow you to examine different kinds of maps that show you different things about the city. So if I wanted to look at a standard map, I could go ahead and do that. And I could overlay different data layers to show me things like where there's a business improvement district, for instance, where there's a local economic development group that is promoting business activity or commerce in a particular area. And I can see in the case of DC here that this is governed by the Golden Triangle Business Improvement District versus the Downtown Business Improvement District. And as we look to extend our capabilities and our coverage to new markets, which we're looking to get to 10 cities over the course of 2015, including New York, San Francisco, Philadelphia, Detroit, Houston, Denver, Dallas, and I'm sure I'm leaving some off the list. But looking at the city at a higher level helps to even direct different kinds of investment activity all across the city as well. And so we can do things like even show you how land is being used across the city. So if I wanted to identify where there was a lot of retail activity, where people are going to bars and restaurants and shopping and doing a lot of things like engaging in recreational activities, you can overlay these different kind of heat maps, either one at a time or all in concert, so that I can identify where might be a good location to open a new retail store if I wanted it to be in a cluster where there's a lot of retail activity. So I can show you where those areas are across an entire geographic area, and then even do things like combine that with other data, like where the central business district is in the city, so that I can, excuse me, so that I can show you where the density of office development is, so that you can instantly tell where there is a higher volume of commercial activity and maybe professional services, and where a lot of commerce happens in a downtown urban area. Same thing goes for residential as well. So I can, if you're familiar with DC, you can see that there's a lot of higher rise apartment buildings up here, up and down Connecticut Avenue. And then as you get into some of the areas in Upper Northwest and Woodley Park, there's a lot of lower density single family homes and those kinds of things. And we can do this across the entire region in order to kind of help inform you and even guide you in areas where you might be looking for specific kind of investment criteria, but don't necessarily know where to begin. So working with a map system like this helps to allow us the ability to go and visualize other kinds of data that might be relevant to other kinds of users as well. And so I can take you down to a project that I worked on a few years back where we were looking to build a new hotel down by the baseball stadium here in DC. And so this is an area, if you're not familiar with it, called the Yards, which is a redevelopment of the old Washington Navy Yard area. So I was looking at this property right here with this triangle. And one of the things that we came across was that it was in a flood zone. So we had to build a building that met special certain kinds of environmental conditions that would protect it from flooding and storm surges, so that when the tides rise and things like that, that we can account for it and that the entire parking garage underneath didn't get flooded. So we're continuing to build in more and more environmental data in here as well to help inform investment decisions and to make it easier to understand all of the different factors that go into understanding what's going on in a particular area, and then on even down to the site level. And so this is certainly a lot of information, and believe me, we appreciate that. One of the things that we also know from our experience is that people are always looking for a variety of different kinds of things. And so with so much information and about 138,000 parcels, give or take, all across Washington, D.C., we knew we needed to provide people with an easy way to make sense of all this and to search across the entire city to pinpoint and identify development sites and investment opportunities that would be most relevant to them. So what you can do if you're looking to go and filter for properties is click on this little filter button right up here. What this will do is this will bring up a menu of choices that you can use to apply and find, use it to match up with your particular investment requirements or what it is that you're looking to do, and to identify all those properties in a given area that are most relevant to you. So this will help to save a lot of time on site selection, on walking and driving around neighborhoods and finding properties of interest that might be undervalued. And just as a simple example here, we can do, currently we're able to do things like filter by some building characteristics and filter by use and area and even zoning. And we're going to continue to expand on this and have it so that you can actually filter across hundreds of different data points across a variety of different focus areas. So for this instance, let's say I was looking to find buildings that are commercial buildings in this market, and I'm looking to find stuff that's between 20,000 and 100,000 square feet, let's say. So all you have to do is just go in here and enter in what your criteria are, and then hit apply. And what this will do is it'll return a list of results for you. So right here, you can see that everything here in yellow is matching the criteria that I put in the system. And this could be a half dozen things if you so wanted to do that. And this would allow you to go and then just click on this list and then fly around to all these properties and save you a lot of time from traveling across the city trying to identify sites of interest, and allow you to do it in a much easier to use and relatable fashion. And then also to kind of obviously take that data and then drill in and see, if that's something that might interest you, who owns it, what the conditions are that impact it, et cetera. There's some of the other things worth mentioning and showing here as we're going through orientating people with the system are the ability to go in and take a tour to see how the platform works and how easy it is to navigate around. So if at any point in time you're looking to find one of these features, we tried to integrate as much training into the system as possible so that it was easy to use and relatable. So at any time, if you're looking to get more acquainted, you can click on this little help bubble up here, and this will take you on a step-by-step tour of how to actually navigate around the system. So basically what the system is, and then depending on how you have your web browser set up, how you would navigate around the site. And so if you have a laptop where you're going to try and move around the city, all you have to do is just left click and drag it around the map. Try to be as similar to Google Maps and some of those other familiar tools as possible. If you're looking to zoom in on a particular area or a site, you can just scroll in using the scroll wheel or your trackpad and either zoom in or out of the site. And then if you're looking to rotate around a property and orbit so that you can see things from a different perspective, you would just right click, or on my Mac, I double click on the map, and it will allow me to drag it around and pan around a particular point wherever my mouse might be. If at any point you're looking to reorient the map so that you can actually get a full overhead view, let's say I wanted to just take a look and see, from a 10,000 foot perspective here, I would just click this little compass icon, and this will reorient the camera position on the map so that you can take an overhead look at the property. Also interesting to note, and that we're going to be providing some more instruction on going forward, is the ability to use your keyboard as well to navigate around the city and around the map. So your arrow keys are going to allow you to move back and forth and left and right on this overhead basis. Or if you're looking to zoom in on a property, you can hit just the plus and minus keys on your keyboard, and that'll give you the ability to zoom in and out on a particular property in addition to using the map. So this is what the current system entails right now. We've made this available for free, and we are going to continue to do that. And we're working with some advertising partners and economic development groups and organizations such as those in order to work to provide some value-added advertising and things like that. So if you have someone who is looking for commercial mortgages and those kinds of things, to provide leads that would allow you to actually execute those transactions a lot more quickly. And so this is available entirely for free. And like I said, it's available just in Washington, D.C. right now, but we are currently working to bring in some of the outlying areas outside of D.C. proper. So Arlington and Alexandria and a variety of counties in Virginia and Maryland. And we anticipate those coming online right around the middle of this year before we expand this to cities across the U.S. So this is the data platform, and I'm happy to kind of pause for a minute and take any questions that anyone has, in order to kind of alleviate any concerns or items that you might want to bring up or any suggestions you'd like to make before we dive into the next piece here. So I'll, if anyone's got a question, I can see. Just hit the raise your hand button on the webinar meeting, and I will go ahead and respond to those. So let's see. Anyone? Okay. All right. Got Sean Jackson from Rock Ventures. Go ahead, Sean. See if I can unmute you here. Go ahead, Sean. You're on.
Hey, cool. I was wondering, how often are you refreshing the data feeds from these different sources?
So the data is refreshed on an ongoing basis as often as those primary sources are updated. So like I mentioned, some of the things like building permits are actually updated on a daily basis by the government. And what we have is we've established a live feed indirectly to those government agencies. So we're not actually going in and manually updating any of that stuff ourselves. We've been working with about a half dozen different agencies to provide an easier to use mechanism by which they can go and they can update the data themselves and then validate it within the agency before releasing it for the public to view. There are some things like demographic data, which just gets updated less frequently. But you can rest assured that as soon as the census information comes out, it is in here in the system. And we've got some data licensing agreements that are currently in the works, which are going to allow us to do things like bring market data in here, like I said, on a more granular basis, and to do it on a more real-time basis as well. So you can really drill down and see how market dynamics are changing, and very soon pull together a complete list of transaction history so we can keep track of things, and allows you to really kind of keep a beat on what's going on in the market on a real time basis or as close as possible to that, without having to go and scour all those different sources yourself.